right, what's up, everybody? We're me and Chris here. We are live from the ad hoc porch studio. It's a beautiful summer's day. What's it? Sunday, June 29th.
Sunday, June 29th. Happy birthday, Mom.
Ooh, happy birthday to your mom. Happy birthday to Chris's mom. Yeah, we've got some neighbors partying in the driveway behind us. So if you pick up any of that noise, we decided that that's a-okay. We'll just leave in the pleasant sounds of mid-afternoon Worcester gathering. Chris, so how are you doing today? How are you doing today on the day of your mother's birth?
I am doing. I'm doing pretty well on today, the day of my mother's birth, and yeah, I love the little ambient sound kicking in the background. I mean, if you've lived in a neighborhood in Worcester, and I assume most of you have, that this will sound very familiar to you. Some, bachata or something kind of playing faintly in the background, and some kids jumping around in some water maybe and having fun, and
yep.
Yeah, it all adds to the ambiance.
Yeah, the building behind mine, they are like always partying in the driveway. They got the speakers going. They got a whole setup out there. It's cool.
That's great. The following is an important announcement from the Outdoor Cats Corrections and Clarifications Department. First, we are never wrong. I have no idea why this department even exists. Second, you might be under the impression that we missed a week of the podcast. That is incorrect.
Wrong.
We did not miss it at all. And in reality, we were rather elated to accept an alternate assignment. Bill and I were both dispatched by some foreign asset tier subscribers to do some crucial and time-sensitive work deep inside the mountains of a certain Persian nation. Upon our return, we were additionally delayed at U.S. Customs, where we both tested highly positive for both radioactive substances and khat. We dispute those tests and are appealing. Rest assured, we are medically fine, and you can still hug us and kiss our feet. It's simply suggested you do so for less than 25 seconds per year. Also, don't give us any khat, no matter what we say. Now, back to our regularly scheduled programming.
Yeah, dude. So I'm not going to divulge which mountainous Persian nation we were in. Because it could have been any one of them. But we have a special tier for special paid subscribers, and we call it the activate tier, where we can be activated as sort of what you might call in the parlance of our times sleeper agents. And it was a lot. That thing is that is underground. I'll tell you what. We went the elevator. You would not believe the elevator we took to get down there, man.
It's a tough bunker to bust. I'll tell you that. Tell you that. And, but some things had to get moved, and that's what we do.
And and it was actually very easy. It was very easy to move it, and the 25 million a pop bunker buster bombs, they didn't bust the bunker. They did not bust that bunker. Again, we're not going to divulge where we were or what we were doing. But
could have been anywhere.
It could have, but we were the sleeper cells activated, and it was a good time. They had Operation Midnight Hammer, we had Operation Midnight. Fuck, what's the name of that? What are you talking about? The khat? Operation Midnight Khat?
Operation Midnight Khat. Operation Midnight, no, I got nothing.
So for the folks at home, and definitely not me, because I definitely know what it is. What is khat?
Khat is a leaf that has a stimulant effect when chewed. I don't know that it is actually, particularly prevalent in the certain Persian country that we went to, but in the region it is a known entity, and were I ever to be in that region as I was last week, I'm definitely getting my hand on a whole satchel of it. Yeah, it's some leaf that you chew up, and it gives you a real good stimulant buzz. Is what I hear.
Interesting. Yeah, that's I've never heard of that, but I might do some googling later. I might do a little googling to check out what that's all about.
Yeah. I've always wanted to try it, and then I did.
And you know what? We moved. We were like, it was like the gold rush. How fast we were moving those carts through those mining tunnels, dude. It was. We were zipping. We were
zipping and chomping and
zipping and chomping and praising the.
Definitely not the Ayatollah.
Definitely not the. I was trying to think of another. I was trying to think. I was googling in my head Ayatollah synonym. I was about to say the Supreme Leader. Speaking of Supreme Leader, totally random thought. Have you ever sat down in Loving Hut, like to eat food in there?
Yes.
So, did you ever happen to watch the TV?
Yes, I have.
Dude, that is some of the craziest television programming ever. It's so Loving Hut, for people who don't know, it's like a vegan restaurant. There's the one on Chandler Street is the one that I think there's another one, but
there's one on Hamilton and the one on Chandler. I think those are the only two.
Yeah. Oh yeah, the one on Hamilton is over by where I used to live, and it was like never open. It was weird. But the one on Chandler is the one, and they have a TV program that is getting simultaneously translated into like 7 languages, all of different scripts, and it is like a futurist, sci-fi, like conclave happening 24/7, in which the Supreme Leader is issuing edicts from on high, and it's one of the most entertaining things I've ever watched, and I have no idea what's going on.
Yeah, it definitely is some kind of a cult, maybe cult adjacent.
Right, because Loving Huts are franchised like around the country or around the world.
And they're all this thing. I don't know what it is. I haven't heard of any like human rights abuses or anything, and I really hope I don't, because the Happy Tofu is really good.
Yeah, what are the chicken nuggets called? The Yummy Fingers.
Oh, the Yummy Fingers.
Yummy Fingers with the peanut sauce, dude.
Yeah,
Woo!
the vegan crab rangoons.
Yeah, the vegan crab rangoons are pretty good. Yep. Yeah. So, I don't know. I guess we've got a couple major things to talk about. First one probably we got to talk about is, the kid from New York doing the thing. The kid from New York, like David and Goliath, slaying sex pests the world over by beating Andrew Cuomo for the New York Democratic nomination for mayor. But it's really, really, really exciting. And I'm getting yelled at on Twitter right now by a couple weirdos. He is a democratic socialist. He's a socialist. Apparently, I went the entire article without writing the word socialist, and now some nerds are mad at me. He's a socialist, a democratic socialist, a member of the Democratic Socialists of America, New York chapter. There is a Worcester chapter, and you can join that. They are not running any candidates, but you can, in the Worcester elections, but you can join the chapter, and it's a good thing to do.
Yeah, I was wondering what of the many kinds of Twitter annoyances you might be getting in response to that. Man, the days that I go to Twitter now are less and less and less, but I made goddamn sure I was there Tuesday night and Wednesday morning to see all of the, or as many as I could, of the amazing meltdowns, people telling Jews to evacuate the city of New York, evacuate.
Yeah.
The global intifada is here.
It's crazy. It's like, they really are trying to do like a Corbyn thing, where if you just say it enough, it becomes true. But Zora Mamandi, not anti-Semitic even a little bit. It's really, the line is just not working.
No, it hasn't worked. It hasn't worked. They've tried it all the different ways. And, we could get into a whole thing about Corbyn, and I won't, but, Corbyn is a certain kind of person, and not the kind of person who is ready to stand to those sorts of attacks. And I think Zoran is a very different person. And the attacks are stupid and ridiculous and have no basis in actual fact, and I think actually only serve to highlight the insanity of the fact that the mayor of New York City needs to have a position on Israel, really.
Right,
Has to talk about how often he'll visit Israel. Why is that? What other country in the world would the mayor of New York have to do that with? And I think Zoran has said very well that his focus as the mayor of New York is going to be actually on New York, which is a novel idea.
Right. He also rinsed Cuomo in every majority Jewish precinct in the city. So
yes, he did.
So that line, folks, it's just not gonna work. You gotta stop doing it. It's like the polite liberal way of doing what the right has been doing, which is just full on calling him a terrorist.
Yeah, and I think it just needs to be said too. We are not the ones conflating Judaism and Israel. That's the Zionists that are doing that. They are not the same thing, and I know and know that there are many, many, many Jews who have a completely reasonable and fact-based understanding of what is happening right now, and those results don't surprise me, but they do hearten me, and I think people listen to someone who is actually talking about real concrete things that he wants to do. You go back a couple mayors and they had de Blasio, I have said, and I didn't originally have this thought, I've stolen it from others, but, the mayor of most big cities is really kind of there to just be like the person that you yell at. But de Blasio did get, I'll say, solidly one thing done that he said he wanted to do, which was free pre-K. Zoran's talking about free buses, rent control, rent freezes. Those are things that I think people in New York City and frankly in a lot of other cities, if anyone's listening, say in this one, those are the kinds of things that people actually want to hear.
Yeah, it's amazing how electoral success can come from just speaking to issues people actually feel in their lives, and with the conviction of being honest, talking about things you'd like to do to alleviate those issues. It is crazy how little of politics in the collective American imagination centers around that very simple thing where it's like for some reason in the, I guess I don't know how far back it goes, maybe to Reagan, promising something is bad. You can't promise to do something. You can't have any sort of actual ambitions or designs for your time in office,
No, because then once you get in, you have to do them, and I mean, who wants to do that?
Right.
The best thing you can do is probably just sort of look busy, or you pulled the perfect quote. I think it was the politics of no translation.
Politics of no translation. That blew my mind when I heard that. Yeah,
because that's another novel concept. I will actually just say what I mean in a way that you can understand it without it needing to be interpreted by you or anyone.
Right.
When I say that the buses will be free, I mean that the buses will be free.
Right. Yeah, it's we're expected to have like require like a reading of the tea leaves every time a politician says something, right? We need all these analysts and talking heads breaking down what it actually means, where we're actually going, and I mean, you see that on the local level the most in the issue that I think got Zoran elected is housing affordability, and the proposed solutions to that problem. In Massachusetts, we have been getting nothing but pure, unfiltered Reaganism that gets translated into sounding like it's affordable housing policy. And it leaves you scratching your head and you're going, wait a second, so how is my rent going to go down exactly?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, because it's not actually. This whole line that we need to incentivize production, I mean, it's like it is so laden with deference to the real estate industry, with like the dim horizon of like the municipal imagination, and like just like city halls just seeing themselves in like the neoliberal world order as like tax break vending machines, and that's all they can really do is just like that's what they mean when they say that line, we're using all the tools in the toolbox.
Yeah.
Right? Just like various tax break programs, right?
And it's just like, what is, well, if we build a bunch of luxury units downtown, that will increase the stock and push the demand down for everything. Like, that is literally trickle-down economics.
It's literally trickle-down economics.
It's exactly what it is.
It makes me feel crazy because, like, even people that, like, I, like, respect are like, no, that's actually the way to do it. And it's like, I just don't think so. Like, how about building more public housing? Like, why is that off the table?
Yeah.
Right? It's crazy.
Yeah, it isn't, and we know it isn't. And even if the supply side was being approached honestly, it wouldn't be the solution. But we know for a fact that the supply side is not being approached honestly, and in fact it is being approached in a legal question mark, we'll find out, price fixing scheme,
right?
Through services like RealPage, where when buildings conspire with each other to keep rents at a certain rate and will actually leave units vacant and fallow, so as not to put so many units on the market that rents go down. It is more cost effective for them to have one unit rented for $4,000 than to have two units rented for $2,000. It's twice the upkeep, it's twice the maintenance calls. It's you got to go in and paint. You gotta whatever.
Now, Chris, that's pretty crazy what you're talking about. So you're saying that like the leading real estate interests are colluding together in a scheme that advances their own self-interest and windfall profits? Because I haven't heard Maura Healey talk about that. I haven't heard Ed Augustus talk about that. Certainly not City Manager Eric Batista. So, I mean, this is news to me. It's
weird. I've never heard the word RealPage or any sort of mention of it directly or indirectly, or its competitors come from any of their mouths. I'm not. I was going to say I'm not smarter than them. I might be. I think I'm smarter than Eric Batista. I'm almost positive I'm smarter than the mayor. But I'm not that smart. I'm just a curious guy, and I like to understand how things work. And I got put onto this tip a few years back, when there was a guy. I'll find the article. A guy wrote this article, and he was like, so rents, he lived in New York City. He was like, rents went down in the pits of COVID in New York City.
Mm-hmm.
And then rents went back up to where they were, and then they kept going up. And now rents there are higher than ever. And when you ask why, the obvious answer that people give is, well, a bunch of people moved back to New York City. And he said, I'm not sure that that's true. Let's see what the data says. And he looked through data from sewer usage to change of address information to all kinds of different things that would be real bellwether indicators about like an influx of people moving to a place, and he wasn't able to find any evidence of it happening. So while he was doing this, he notices one day that an apartment down the hall from his is vacant. Like the door's open, they're doing some stuff inside, and it's got like a mark by the door or something. He starts noticing like a lot of apartments in the building have that mark next to the door, and they all seem to be vacant. Why would that be? And then he finds out about RealPage, and that's the answer.
Yeah.
The answer is, if you can't rent your building out full at the rate that you want to, you just leave a bunch of units empty.
That's, oh my God. So, it's so crazy, like the abundance mindset, and like, you know, every answer we're getting on housing from the Democrats is like, oh, you can't meddle. You have to let the market do what the market does. You can't like interfere with that. You can't meddle. You can't put restrictions on the market, because then you'll have less housing. But here we have the developers who are supposed to solve the housing crisis meddling in the market explicitly for their own gain. While people are sleeping outside, they have housing units that they're deliberately keeping offline to give the illusion of more demand than there is.
Yes. They also have been building less housing.
Right.
We have had, I don't know, it has to be 10 by now, several to 10, let's say, announced large housing projects, housing development projects, more luxury apartments, nothing you can buy and nothing that's cheap, mostly in the downtown area, that have been announced and scuttled, and then sometimes re-announced or a different company announced, then scuttled over and over and over again. Just in my neighborhood, directly across the street, above the Worcester Common parking garage, there is supposed to be a building of housing. It's not there. It's been 7 years.
Right.
Above the Registry of Deeds, they were supposed to be building apartments. They're not there. Where Fairway Beef is, they were supposed to be building apartments. They are not there. There's been, I think, 3 planned projects for the site where they knocked down Notre Dame des Canadiens, the beautiful church that used to sit at the corner. That plot of land has been a hole in the ground with a fence around it for 7 years.
It will continue to be that way.
Nothing has been built.
Yeah, it's been trading. That one particularly I looked into because I once proposed that would be an ideal spot for a sanctioned encampment site, and that like a city with balls could just be like, if you don't want the site here, do something with the land.
Yeah.
Which Worcester would never. Are you kidding me? Just look at what they let the Crocs do. I mean, like, fuck. Yeah. We don't have to get into that whole mess, but that changed hands like twice recently, with like only a half-hearted proposal. One of the developers put in a half-hearted proposal and then sold it to another, I think, Rhode Island-based developer / property / hedge fund, equity firm, or whatever you call it. And it's pretty obvious that that's just like an asset that people are trading, a speculative one to sit on until market conditions change, right?
Yeah.
Which I don't know how anyone could believe that they would change for the better in the near future, you know?
Well, I mean, they won't change for the better in the near future for people that are here. I think the speculation is that more people with the kind of incomes that can support paying, $25,000, $3,000, up to $4,000 in rent for some of these apartments, that there will be more of those people. And I got to be honest with you, I don't think that's a great bet either, but that's the bet they're making, and they will not put a shovel in the ground until the numbers add up, until the balance sheet at the end of that is in the black. And that's why you can't count on private development in a housing shortage. We need to build a lot of public housing, like thousands and thousands and thousands of units of it.
It seems that supply and demand question about the rents could be most easily ameliorated by introducing some public competition to the private real estate sector.
Yeah.
And there's a long track record of that being done successfully. The only thing we really need to get over is like the welfare queen shit that's baked into our collective American subconscious about public housing being a dirty word. And like it's like, oh, we can't do that. Like we need to make sure that the WHA has a 8-year-long waiting list for forever. This is just it's just really gross because the amount of money we've spent on dumb shit that we could have just spent on just like municipal housing projects. And like I don't know, we don't get too far afield with this, but like even there are cities in America in like Democrat-controlled, Democrat-run cities. There's not a lot of examples of them, but there are cities that operate their own, basically equity firm and use that to build housing basically at cost. And that's something that Worcester could do, if it wanted to, but we're typically like 10 to 20 years behind the trend. And this is something that cities are just starting to do now. So maybe we'll have someone putting this on the table in like 2040, right? Like we are so stuck in the 80s in so many ways. And housing is one of the bigger ones.
Yeah, there's just not a single innovative thing being done or tried or really even talked about. And it's a bummer because it's making it harder for everyone to live here. It's making it harder for me to live. Like I can see a future where I don't live in Worcester anymore, never mind as a homeowner, but even as a renter. And that really bums me out because I like it here. But I like not living in a postage stamp apartment also.
Right. But then the question also becomes, because Worcester was a place that you moved to if you couldn't afford like a quote unquote nice city.
That's why I moved here.
Worcester hasn't become remarkably nicer or more attractive as like a city for the arts or for like nightlife. In fact, it's gotten a lot worse, I would say.
Yeah.
Because we don't have like a workforce local due to displacement to sustain restaurants. That's a big part of the reason why we're seeing all these closures lately. So it's like, yeah, like that. Where do you go if it's not Worcester, right? Like, is this process not happening in like Fitchburg? Because I have a feeling if it's going to happen in Worcester, it's happening like everywhere.
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't know the lay of the land as much in some of those towns, but I do notice when I go up to Fitchburg or Leominster or say down to Southbridge or up to Clinton, Webster is another good example. I go out to some of those places and I notice there's been a big influx of Latino communities, African communities, and so I do think a lot of people have pushed out into those areas, and the market conditions there are different maybe, but only for the moment. The
Right.
same thing will happen absent intervention. It's also important, I think, people know this, but Worcester doesn't have a housing shortage. Massachusetts entirely has a housing shortage.
Right.
End to end, top to bottom.
Yeah. One of the things that has irked me and will continue to irk me in the way that the general news media will talk about a city's success or failure. This is the whole like being on the map narrative, where you can watch it happen in real time if you're looking at it through the correct sort of academic lens, but like it's all a little bit astroturfed. It's like the best example is the Boston Globe paid for story about the Canal District in Polar Park, and the paid sponsor was Rockland Bank, which has like stake in some of the properties around Polar Park. So it's all a big circle jerk, and it's like they pick one city at a time, and Worcester just happened to be that city in like 2018, 2019, 2020, to be like look at this rising star, like this city is coming back, and then there's like the Boston Globe and all of these like statewide outlets will run like untold amount of stories about it, and then the Worcester Renaissance narrative like works, and Ed Augustus gets to take credit for it as it having been like some design of City Hall, but like there's really good academic theory out there. David Harvey is probably the leading expert in this, but like uneven development, the geography of uneven development is something that like the real estate industry pointedly maintains. In order to inflate one area, you depress another area. And when the inflated area has reached max profit-seeking opportunity, then you go to the area that you deflated at the same time, and you inflate that area.
Yeah, and oftentimes those areas are right next to each other.
Right.
In Worcester, for example, I think you could say that those areas are right next to each other, right? Like, what is this whole, the borderline right now seems to be Madison Street. That's a borderline. Anyway.
Yeah.
That's like the southern borderline. Above Madison Street is the Renaissance, and below Madison Street is Main South. And that is an area that is still not getting any of this shine, and is still in the conditions that it is. And there's property speculation there happening, but like, yeah, a really easy, if you want to spend 5 minutes on YouTube and unfortunately probably fuck up your algorithm forever, Google Philadelphia, North Kensington, and you'll see, if you haven't already seen the videos of, like, the zombies walking around, people folded in half on the sidewalk, blah, 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 whatever. Take a look at the neighborhood that is directly on the other side of the North Kensington train station, which also used to be a very similar neighborhood that was driven into complete blight and abandonment, and now looks kind of a lot like downtown Worcester does. There's buildings that look a lot like all the ones that are going up, and there's a sweet green and all of that, and that's how you do it, folks.
Yeah, and that's one of the police department's major roles in our society, is making sure, what we saw in LA, like when the protests happen, respond overwhelmingly. And then order number 2 is you facilitate the uneven development games of the real estate industry by over-policing one area. So, and they're very good at that. And it's very, it hides behind this term that we hear all the time. And I know we talk about the cops way too much on this podcast, but community policing is a euphemism for doing that, for a sort of like the post-colonial management of a containment zone, and picking where that containment zone is going to be, and it depreciates all of the property value within it, until you start getting the city on the rise narrative, and developers swoop in to get a good deal on that land and reappreciate those assets. So.
Yeah. I wanna loop us around in a second, but before I do, I actually had a community policing interaction this week, as it happens.
Oh, geez.
So I was walking my dog outside of my building. I take him out to the street at night. And one of the reasons I do this is I have one asshole neighbor who is the bad asshole, selfish jerk-off dog guy in our entire building. Everybody hates him. And I have had a confrontation with this guy in the past. I try to avoid him. It's like, if you're a dog person, you'd understand, but, he goes in the community dog park. He thinks that when his dog is in there, it's only for his dog and no other dogs can go in. That's not how it works. It's an area for, dogs that can socialize with each other to go. So I'm walking the other night, and I see this guy. This guy thinks he's a tough guy. He's not a tough guy, but he thinks he's a tough guy. So he likes to put himself in little confrontations. You know what? I don't mind that too much either with this particular asshole. So finding myself with him sort of walking towards me, I'm in a position where I don't really have another way to go. I was like, fuck it, I'm going to walk straight at this guy, and I'm going to be like, what the fuck are you, you could have taken 5 different fucking ways to not run into me. Like, are you that fucking stupid? Or so this guy and I wind up, getting into a little bit on the sidewalk, and from across the street I hear some, hey. The bus hub's across the street. I don't know who the fuck's yelling from over there.
Yeah.
It turns out it's 2 cops, and they come running across the street, running through traffic, like holding it, like stop.
Police
and
business.
They're screaming at me. You're gonna get locked up. You're gonna get locked up. And they come over, and then they see who I am, and they realize that I'm not the type of person that they are there to bother. So they're going to yell at me, but they're not actually going to do shit. But they're like, get out of here. You're going to get arrested. And I'm like, this is my fucking building. You're on my block. Like, you get out of here. I fucking live here. And it goes, whatever. They tell me they're going to arrest me. I laugh at them, and I tell them that they're definitely not going to arrest me. And they tell me that they will arrest me, and they'll have my dog taken to the pound. And I said, no, I'll have my wife come down and get my dog. And they said, no, you won't. Just the cruelty is the point. Right.
Respect my authority.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I gave him a little bit of, I was like, oh, so what's going to happen is you're going to call your sector sergeant, and you're going to say, can we call in animal control? Because they're not working right now. And they're going to say, for what? And you're going to say, for a dog who has someone who could come and take him, but I'm just being a vindictive asshole. And your sergeant's going to tell you to go pound sand. And then I asked him his name, and then he walked away. Immediately. I asked him his name, and he U-turned and beelined across the street.
That's a good pro tip for dealing with the police. Just drop the term sector sergeant on them.
Yeah, let them know that you give them any idea that you have any idea what they do or how they talk, and it's not hard because they're fucking morons.
Yeah.
And then ask them for their name and their badge number, and they'll probably leave you alone if you're white and live in a luxury apartment building, quote unquote luxury apartment building. But anyway,
damn dude, you're
community
like
policing of some cops on the night shift babysitting the bus hub, coming over to yell at me after a minor neighbor dispute is already ending. We're already walking away from each other, and they're like, wait, we can make this worse.
Yeah, we're bored. Let's make this worse. You pulled an Obi-Wan Kenobi, dude. You were like, I am not the dickhead you're looking for.
Like, sorry, you don't fucking scare me, dude.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's just, a little slice of American life right there.
That's community policing in downtown Worcester. I see it every day. That's where they walk the footbeats. They walk them right by my fucking apartment, and that's what they do.
Yep.
They rustle homeless people from one bench to another, and they yell at people, and they're not helpful, and they don't do anything helpful.
Yep. Long rant about housing and cops. Tie it all back. It's absolutely has to be the number one issue for any progressive running in the Worcester election coming up is obviously housing. Put forward something new that sounds normal to normal people on housing. I mean, like, the problem with going from New York to Massachusetts is you can't directly copy Zoran's playbook because we have all sorts of insane rules here in Massachusetts, probably more insane than most places because towns have so much power.
Yeah, we've also done things like make rent control illegal by statute. That's a neat thing that we did a few decades ago.
Did that back in the 80s. So there's some translating that needs to happen. At the very least, though, Worcester City Council should be putting a home rule petition, which is the fancy word for what a city or town has to do to enact a local law or ordinance in the situation where the state legislature needs to sign off on it, which is like more times than you would think. I mean, Boston's been doing a great job of this home rule petition game under Mayor Wu, and they just put forward a home rule petition to senior property tax relief exemption over and above state law. This is something that Rob Bellotta put on the table in Worcester, and I've had a hell of a time like explaining that to anybody how it's different, and Katie Merrill Carlson keeps playing the dirty game of being like, we already give seniors the maximum amount of property tax relief, and it's like, no. Boston introduced a home rule petition. And I mean, I feel like you lose people as soon as you say home rule petition, which is, of course, the point of the home rule petition process. But, like, the Worcester City Council should, at the very least, be asking the state legislature to rule on our request for rent control. Like, we should be putting forward a rent control home rule petition that the legislature has to shoot down. So then we can say, it's the legislature's fault. We are trying to do this.
Beacon Hill, all up in our business again.
Exactly. Make it a problem for them. Instead, like, we just have everyone sort of content to, like, play this, like freaking, we're trying to use the master's tools, right? Like the Affordable Housing Trust Fund is just going to build. It's just not. It's not the way forward. Yeah. So anyway, city council candidates should be talking about rent control, rent freezes in public housing. I'd have to ask a municipal attorney, somebody smarter than me, because that's Zoran's main policy piece was doing exactly that in public housing, in the housing that the city can directly control the price of. Doing a rent freeze there. And maybe Worcester can do that with the WHA, but I'm not sure. That's a question that requires more expertise than I have. But even just putting it on the table is like, force their hand, make them say no, make them explain why. You know, like the rent is too damn high is a very compelling message.
To kind of tie it all together, I guess, or try to, I think, one of the things that I wanted to talk about with Zoran's amazing primary win is what it says, what it shows us is possible, and then the absolute fucking freak out that Democrats, probably even more than Republicans or the rest of the bunch, Democrats are having about that.
Right.
And what I wanted to say about that is two things, I guess. One, if you are running for office, hitch your star to this shit. It's what's up. It's where the momentum is. Do it earnestly. Shit, even do it cynically if you'll follow through with the policies. I don't fucking care. But that's where you want to be. That is where popular opinion is.
Yeah.
This is the stuff that people desperately, desperately want. And if you tell them that you'll give it to them and then you actually show them that you will, and you make it not scary, people will follow you. And that leads me to my second thought that I've been having, which is the Democrats have had a week now or 5 days, 6 days to really look themselves in the mirror and say, this is interesting.
Yeah.
This went a little differently than we thought it was going to. And maybe it's time to readjust. And they are not doing that at all.
Yeah.
They're running as far from that as they possibly can. And I know that a bipartisan, bicameral setup is kind of like what we're destined to get with the way that our particular system is set up. But sometimes in history, in United States history, when one party, or especially when two parties, are kind of tripping over their own dicks for years and years and years like this, a third party comes in and replaces one of those parties. And people that build those kinds of things, I really hope you have your toolboxes out right now, because there's a lot of people ready to jump to something else.
If you gave me the option right now to support a political party that Zoran is the avatar of, just like the DSA party, whatever it's called, the Democratic Socialist Party. In Europe and more normal democracies, they have parties that are called that.
Yeah.
They have there's actual coalitions of party that comprise the left wing of and center left of the political equation, and I would happily throw in with that. And I'm just the Democratic Party deserves to die, and I mean especially after Gaza, it just deserves to die. And I really, that's not my expertise. I'm not about to be someone who can just start a party, but man, there's so many people who would jump ship and be actually excited about this shit for once. Which is, of course, why that's what the Democratic Party really exists for, is to prevent that from happening, to sort of suck up all of the energy of the popular left and diffuse it, right? So you have to imagine that they're going to try to play some games to do that, but I agree with you, Chris. I really haven't seen any playbook come out so far, except for trotting out the anti-Semitic thing.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what else they could have up their sleeve at this point. I don't think they were preparing for a general election run against Zoran. I don't think they thought that this was what was going to come to pass. So I'm quite confident, actually, that they've been caught with their pants down. But he is scary to Jews, which doesn't seem to be true. He is anti-Semitic, the citations needed, and that he's a socialist, and then they highlight, some of his socialist policies, and it's like, oh no, you could ride the bus if you didn't have some change in your pocket, your rent wouldn't go up, right. Oh no. Yeah. I don't think it scares people like it used to anymore. The world is so fucking scary the way it is. Look at what the next 6, 12, 24 months look like in I would imagine most people's futures, certainly mine. I really don't know what it's going to look like. And I've tried. I didn't set out to build myself an extremely perilous life, and I don't actually want a whole lot. My dreams are pretty small, and they get farther and farther away from me every day. That's what I'm afraid of. Fucking socialism doesn't scare me at all, and it shouldn't scare you.
Yeah, right. It's like, how many times in a row can you be caught with your pants down before your pants are just down?
Yeah.
Right? The pants, your pants are just always around your ankles, and being caught with your pants around your ankles is just people noticing that your pants are around your ankles. They're just always there.
It never occurred to you to pull them up.
Yeah, because you're like, I don't have to pull them up. I've worked too hard. I've been around too long. My pants are staying down around my ankles, and I don't give a shit. I'm gonna do flagrant insider trading and keep my congressional office for the rest of my goddamn life, and then I'll serve on the Supreme Court until I'm 95 years old and have no succession plan. It's crazy, man. They've just blown it every single time.
Yeah.
Fucking Joe Biden. It was a real treat to go on Talk of the Commonwealth, and be able to give my opinion of Joe Biden to the conservative audience of that show that has certainly never heard a left-wing critique of any kind of the Democratic Party. And those are people that are fucking reachable. Bernie was reaching those kind of people. It is how many unions are inherently left-wing structures, populated by a bunch of people that the war on terror turned into reactionary psychos, but who have the same class interest that you do if you speak to it, right? It's going to be a lot harder to just do the conservative, these are just all fucking snowflakes and blue hairs, trying to do DEI. If you're talking about actual material concerns that impact them and their families, how many young conservatives are that way because they grew up in that environment, but they're not looking at the same shit that we're looking at, where it's fucking impossible to get into a house. And especially if you're a conservative, that's the holy grail for you, is your own home and your own little nuclear family. And it's a candidate that comes along and offers something concretely about how the state needs to intervene in the real estate market. That at a certain point, doesn't that supersede your culture war notions about who you are? It's way more significant than anything that you usually hear talked about as politics.
Yeah, and I think a lot of I have people in my family who are definitely Trump voters, and the simplest thing that I say that blows their mind usually is they're like, I fucking hate Joe Biden. And I'm like, yeah, me too, man. And they're like, well, Hillary Clinton's the devil. And I'm like, yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Shit.
She does drink baby blood. You're right.
Yeah. What is it? What was it? Frazzle drip is real. I don't think frazzle drip's real, but spiritually it's real.
Yeah.
There's an assumption by a lot of people. I think on both sides of people who are committed to one side or the other of the bipartisan system, that if you're on this side or you're on that side, and I'm like, no, I'm not on any of these guys' side. Like,
No.
yeah, like who did I vote for president? I didn't vote for anybody. I passed in a fucking blank ballot.
Mothman real.
I've
made so many. That was like before, like, so that's why I voted in 2020, and I made so many people mad that were like, "You're a journalist, sir. Your vote matters." And I was like, "No, I'm a journalist, and I have been trying to tell you, and this is one way of telling you that your vote actually doesn't fucking matter."
Yeah.
I would love for my vote to matter, but unfortunately, it does not.
Yeah, well, I mean, and I think about it like this, right? Like, my vote doesn't matter in a presidential election, but my vote matters to me. My vote is valuable to me as an expression of my values.
Yes.
And I won't give it to someone who doesn't support my values. And so if there's no one on the ballot who does that, I just don't vote for any of those people.
Right.
I write in prison abolition for sheriff. I don't think there should be a fucking sheriff.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's just, yeah, that's a crazy elected position. Also, it's like, what is the sheriff, like, why do we have police departments and sheriff department? Like, what the fuck? Like, how did we end up with two?
Yeah.
Right? But that, anyway, that's a whole different thing. Like, the sheriff is just like, it's make-work jobs for people like Kate Toomey, and it's like a make-work political position for someone like Lou Evangelitis. It's like they don't actually serve like a function that couldn't be handled by another bureaucracy.
Yeah, no, not at all. They run the jail, which I don't think should exist.
Right, but like DCF, I mean, not DCF,
DOC.
DOC is there. Like, why couldn't the jail be run by that jail bureaucracy? We have a separate sheriff that commands political power locally, that orders all the Under Armour polos.
Yeah.
Orders Under Armour out of stock of branded polo shirts.
Yeah, and then they do process serving, which is like anyone could do.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy, but fucking yeah. It's like, why would you betray your values to fall in line with something when it doesn't matter if you fall in line, because it's going to happen to you anyway? And that's like the Democrats' electoral strategy. And we saw how monumentally it failed with freaking Kamalama Ding Dong. Like, you can't just like coerce people to fall in line because it's less bad than the alternative in some diffuse ways that like really fall apart once you start thinking about it.
Yeah.
Like, Kamala bombs Iran. Like, can I just say that? Like, Kamala bombs Iran.
Absolutely.
Like she's given the same opportunity Trump is. She fucking does it. Well, please.
Yeah. Kamala had numerous chances to distinguish herself in any way from Joe Biden on pretty much anything, certainly on Gaza and Palestine, and she declined to do so. She declined to do so. You could get into her reasons. It doesn't really matter. The impact is what matters. And she would have done the same thing. And when faced with the decision that we all had this past November, a rational choice to make is no. And that's the choice that a lot of people made.
Right.
We have the numbers.
It's no big secret. People just stayed home. And, if you're not winning anybody back by just proposing the same thing over and over again, but where you're caught in a bind here is that the Democratic Party's business model is not congruent with popular support or anything having to do with the left. I mean, like, the most telling thing about Zoran's victory, and the most amazing part about it, is how much the New York real estate lobby dumped into Cuomo's campaign. It was $25 million at least.
Yeah.
At least. And that'll buy you, a Bill Clinton endorsement. But I guess not much else. It just didn't matter at all. It didn't penetrate.
I think another interesting thing that people that are much smarter than me are probably hopefully looking into is I think we have actually found the ceiling for money in politics.
I hope.
I don't think we found the ceiling in that they'll stop spending so much money. I don't believe that at all. God, you want to talk about a fucking WPA system for kids who graduate from Ivy Leagues?
Yeah, dude.
One of the largest make work programs in the country, if you go to the right finishing schools, is getting into that apparatus.
Yep.
But I think we are seeing we were seeing the limits of the efficacy of what money can do. What can you do with $30 million if you don't have popular support? You can only, you can make every ad on television an Andrew Cuomo ad. You can't do much else. You can just saturate media to a point that I think, is really, off-putting to people, actually, but certainly doesn't seem to be effective.
Especially when you look like a ghoul.
Especially when you look like a fucking ghoul. And also, a thing that some people have been talking about, but I noticed it. I only watched part of the second debate. I'm not a freak. I don't live in New York City, but I was interested after hearing about the first debate. Cuomo fucking sucks on a debate stage, and he's gotten worse. He might be early onset Biden brain.
Yeah.
People are saying.
Yeah, it was bad, but Zoran was so good, and it's like, why wouldn't the Democratic Party see that as their goddamn meal ticket? The guy has got more fucking natural swag than Obama does.
Yeah, I mean, I think the answer is that if you are able to do that without $64 zillion in consultancy fees paid to every place that will read a poll and then break you down, micro charts of Erewhon shoppers with green hair under
sure
32 to target, then you're not going to be the participant in the larger grift machine that they need
right.
to run. Right?
Yeah. It's imagine being that plucky, that plucky fresh Ivy League grad at the Super PAC company, and you're at one of the champagne holding events. That's pretty much 90% of your job is you just go somewhere and you hold a flute of champagne, and you're like, hey, what if we just just get nominally get behind everything Zoran's saying and make it the face of the Democratic Party, and at the same time just slow it down a little bit, but pretty much pretend that he's the future, and then our party will have a future. And everyone's like, dude, what are you? No. How are we going to keep McKinsey in business?
Yeah.
It's way more important that we keep McKinsey in business than we do something like that. We would rather commit suicide politically than do something like that.
If the message requires no translation, then who are you going to pay to translate it?
Exactly. Right. That's a lot of jobs.
It is. It literally is. You can get yourself down, lizard people, Illuminati rabbit holes, and all kinds of crazy shit, or you can understand that is the grift. It's really that simple.
Yeah.
The party is the nucleus of an entire entity that surrounds it that just sucks money into paying people, $180,000 a year to fucking, run fucking Abundance Fest or something.
Yeah. There's a lot of wells that have been built in Africa in the name of supporting this fucking thing.
Yeah.
It was in a recent issue of Harper's, but like the UN is the perfect example of that, where the UN basically just like is make work program on top of make work program on top of make work program that nothing gets done, but there's so much bureaucracy in it, and there's so many jobs that are tied to competing interests within it, and they are all staffed by like liberal Jesse Gemstones, you know. Just fail sons and daughters that need something to do.
Cousins of diplomats.
Right.
Whatever.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Look at the world around you. Look at what the UN is supposed to do, and then look at Gaza. Look at South Sudan. Look at Ukraine. Look at the 10 to 15 other examples that aren't coming to my mind right now. Rojava, Azerbaijan, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, you've done amazing. You've done really good. We definitely aren't in a World War III that's not being named as such because there's no land invasion going on. That's like bigger than the two that are going on right now. But I mean, like, please, like, it's crazy how much strife and turmoil is occurring at the same time with the same vested parties. It seems like, I don't know, it seems like we might look back at this hopefully someday and see it for what it is. But
Bill, did you tell me you have a reading series?
oh yeah, I do. Hold on, I gotta pull it up. Speaking of entrenched Democrats who are just there to be proud that they're Democrats and poo-poo the left at the same time, and generally just this is what the center right of the Democratic Party is best encapsulated by one Ray Mariano, Telegram for the columnist for the Telegram, who had a really, really amazing column lately, or a couple days ago, in the grand Democratic tradition of telling protesters how they should protest, being a person who hates protesters and wants them to not do anything and never be effective.
Before you get there, just before you get there for a second, for folks who don't know who Ray Mariano is, we talked about him a few times. Ray Mariano was, prior to his, retirement, we are pretty sure pro bono opinion columns in the Telegram that he writes, from maybe not even living in Worcester. He ran the Worcester Housing Authority for a number of the years that we could have been doing anything about public housing and making more of it. And he did not do any of those things. Prior to that, and probably what he would say he was most well known for, he was the mayor of Worcester from 1993 to 2001. So there are people in this city, well into their 20s, who weren't even born when Ray Mariano was the mayor, and somehow this fucking asshole is still around.
Right.
Every week we've got to hear from fucking Ray's cobwebbed head.
Right. We have to, and Ray's entire political career was built on praxis of how can I invent a new way to make poor people prove it.
Yeah.
Right. So he's one of those ghouls, you know. He's like the lineage of like having to means test everything to death and make sure that there is such a dense and terrible and humiliating bureaucracy involved with getting any sort of return from the state for the taxes that you pay. This is Ray Mariano, that fucking guy, and this is a column that ran June 27th, so that's 2 days ago. The headline, "Nothing New About Protests at City Hall." Now, Chris, I am going to read this until I get to the jaw-dropping detail, and I haven't talked to you about what the jaw-dropping detail is,
And I haven't read this, so I'm coming in cold.
but I think you'll stop me when we get to it. Over the past few months, Mariana says, city council meetings have become a bit of a circus act with clowns, people breathing fire, and spectators screaming and chanting. Let me read that one more time. Over the past few months, city council, these meetings, they have become a bit of a circus act with clowns, people breathing fire, and spectators screaming and chanting.
Only one of those things is true, and it would be so much cooler if 3 of those things were true.
It's a circus act with clowns.
I want clowns and fire breathing.
Dude,
Tuesday.
imagine Ray Mariano writing that lead and be like, yeah, I'm cooking with fucking hot fire right now. Who are the best 5 columnists of all time? Ray Mariano, Ray Mariano, Ray Mariano.
They said I'm number 1. No, I'm sorry, they lied. I'm number 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5.
Yeah. All of this makes for interesting viewing and reading. Unfortunately, because of the way the city has responded, none of it makes for good government. First, we had the dust-up relative to Councillor Chu Nguyen and the possible use of hate speech. What a crazy cop way to write that sentence. Like Candy Merrill Carlson's name is not in it, and use of hate speech is next to 2. So, I mean, that's a dirty way to write that.
Yeah,
sentence.
it's a roundabout way to
Right.
Yeah.
You're kind of trusting the reader to not think about it very hard. So he continues. That went on for a while with councilors and people in the community taking sides. Thank you for that. That's like, is this an alien? Yeah. Political issues are when people in the community take sides.
That's the same real 6th grade essay hours.
Yeah. Then there was the self-inflicted wound that the council made when it denied one group the opportunity to speak relative to the conflict in the Middle East after having already allowed people on the other side to speak. I mean, yeah, that's true, but that also happened before Candy called to it and was the reason Candy called to it. So the timeline's wrong, but I digress. Now, and this is where he's getting to like the real news item of the column, something that happened 2 or 3 weeks ago at this point. Now we have the ICE visit to Eureka Street in Worcester. District 4 Councilor Atalagia, he doesn't even get the district right, summoned to court and issues involving the response of the Worcester Police Department. It's anyone's guess what will be next. Like, haha, none of these things are worth protesting about. A little bit of history. He says, if you listen to some people at City Hall, you would think that all of this is new, that nothing like this has ever happened before. But that's simply not the case. I've seen teacher strikes that filled the halls and stairways of City Hall, and the council chambers with so many teachers that it was literally impossible to hear yourself think. There were so many people screaming insults and threats.
Ray, that's not why you've never heard yourself think, buddy. There's a different reason.
There were so many people screaming insults and threats at city councilors and school committee members that police were called. I've seen chambers and hallways packed by dozens of various political and neighborhood groups all screaming, chanting, and trying to disrupt the council meeting. Probably the most intimidating protest involved the members of the police union.
You don't say.
You don't say. Angry members showed up at a council meeting, parked their cars behind the cars of councilors in the underground garage so no one could leave. Then, individual police officers stood behind every councilor's chair in the council chamber so that when councilors sat down, an officer was looking over their shoulder. It's true, they didn't wear masks, but they did carry guns. I remember a couple of councilors pleading with the police chief for help. Chris, does he go on to talk about the police union here and this protest that he witnessed the police union do that's way above and beyond? Or does he continue to talk about the current protesters that shut the meeting down? Which one does he continue to talk about here?
Oh, Ray, I'd love to give you the benefit of the doubt, but I know you too well. There's no way he follows that train of thought.
Dude, he does not return to that even once. I'm not reading the rest of this, but he doesn't return to that even once. He just outlined exactly the thing that people were protesting. And he makes no connection to that whatsoever. How many times can the rank and file of the Worcester Police Department, under the direction of police union leaders, act like absolute fucking thugs? And we're just like, haha, that's just boys being boys, right?
Yeah.
And he's just invoking that example to be like, yeah, people think these protests are new, but I've been around a little bit. I've seen some protests. And
you may not know this, but I used to be the mayor.
And it's like, dog, these, like, the people that shut down the city council meeting a couple weeks ago are people with no power in the municipality. So, and it was a peaceful disruption of city council events. The police union standing behind the chair of each individual councilor, blocking their cars in, that's not a protest. This is not a one-to-one. That is literally like a gang intimidating you into doing what they want. That is, you're being coerced by a gang to do things.
Bill, what was it, 3 weeks ago? Less than a month ago, when you were inside the building and I was outside the building, when an all available units call went out.
Yes.
All available units. Every fucking cruiser, gang squad, fucking vice squad, detective bureau, all to City Hall for people in the chambers not going into the city councilor's area and definitely not blocking in their fucking cars with other cars.
They didn't do anything close to that. And Ray Mariano's main critique of the protesters is that some of them wore masks. And it's like, he does this like stupid mealy mouth like lib thing where he's like, you're no better than the ICE agents who wear masks. And it's like, no, the ICE agents have the facial recognition software that can get you fucking deported if they get a fucking ping. Yeah. I don't have that. Actually, fuck LAPD just launched a reverse facial recognition tool. I just read that this morning.
Oh, sweet.
Well. It's a catalog of like 9,000 like Orange County and LA sheriff and LA police officers, and if you get a good enough picture of their face, it'll register back with their name and address and shit.
Hell yeah.
Pretty sick. But yeah, it's like it's just like when I read that, I was like, how are you invoking that and still poo-pooing the people who are protesting the police? You recognize that? You just barely. You're missing one key detail there, which is that wasn't a protest. That was like you were being held hostage and coerced into doing something that they wanted you to do. And I'm sure you did it. I don't know what it was, and you don't say in the article, but I'm sure whatever they wanted, they got.
Yep.
So, that's crazy, man. So we need to do any little sleuths that are interested in going through the archives, and if anybody can dig up what Ray is referring to there with the police unions blocking in counselors' cars and stuff, I'd be stoked to know. I'll try to look around myself. I haven't yet. Maybe it's easier to find, but maybe it might be kind of tricky, because obviously that wouldn't make like the Telegram and Gazette wouldn't write about like the police union being intimidating. So I don't know, but yeah. So that's old Cape Cod Ray, the only columnist at the Telegram Gazette right now. Former mayor, he's dumb as fucking rocks. And he only exists to poo-poo the progressive wing of Worcester politics whenever he can and however he can.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. And we got anything else to talk about?
I don't think so. Except I was gonna say I think I told you I want to go out on some kneecap this week. I know that you're not yet familiar.
No, I'm not.
Wondering. I'd be curious to know how many listeners are, but kneecap fucking rules. Kneecap is an Irish hip hop group that sings mostly in Gaelic or Irish. The native language of Ireland, and there was a movie made about them that's kind of a mostly true story. It's fun to watch and figure out what's the true story and what's just funny things that worked well into making it a better story. It's on Netflix. I really recommend people watch. My trajectory with Kneecap was a friend told me about them last year, and I listened, and I was like, this is cool, but it's in a language I don't understand, and it's pretty cool. It really took me seeing the movie, and the way the movie highlights like the reason that they're doing this is to like preserve the language and to bring the language like into a contemporary, useful and engaging form for younger people, and also it literally like in a lot of parts of the movie they're singing in Gaelic and it's being translated and you're like, oh, this sounds beautiful, and also now I know what they're saying. Like a lot of I have only a little bit of Irish heritage, but I feel very proud of it now more than ever. There is really maybe not a country in the world that is going harder by and large for Palestine.
Yes, I'm happy you said that, because I didn't want to be. I'm like, my mom's side of the family is like 100% Irish. So I didn't want to be like the Irish propagandist on the program, but like the through line from Gaelic to Ireland being like the standout voice of reason on the situation in the Middle East, as everyone euphemistically calls it. The people who have spoken out the hardest and the most for Gaza, because like really like. You get into kind of like Irish were the first slaves territory when you start talking like this, which is bad. But they are Ireland is one of the oldest colonies in the history of colonialism. And the survival of Gaelic as like the pre-colonial language is like a testament to that spirit. It's like the reason why that has been held on to is because that's what the British were trying so hard to exterminate.
Yeah. I mean, it was literally outlawed, I believe, for a while to speak Gaelic, to do Catholic stuff in general, to like participate in many of their cultures and traditions. And then one of the things that the film actually gets into is a political battle to bring Irish or Gaelic to the equivalent level as a first language in Ireland, as a primary language. This is how these are the machinations of colonial oppression. And the Irish are very, very familiar with them, and it really heartens me to see a people who have been colonized and oppressed for centuries look at another place that is going through the exact same thing and say, like, no, it's wrong here, and it's just as wrong there. It's really that simple. I really hope that more Irish Americans can kind of plug into that vibe. because it's a really good one. But yeah.
Unfortunately, half to 75% are cops.
Yeah, I know. that's a real bummer.
It is the Irish American lets the Irish down in a lot of ways, but I am so excited to check out this documentary now. When I went to Ireland last year, and had an Irish guy point down. We were at the top of the mountain or whatever, and he was selling like schlocky little rocks with like sheep painted on them, and he was pointing down at all these ruins of houses, and he was like, that was like the death house, that was the soup house, and the fact that this road exists is because of a British make-work program during the famine. And that area he was pointing down, he was like, that had a 70% mortality rate in like this part of Ireland. Yeah. So when like the world tries to launder the food shortages going on in Gaza right now as a natural famine, that is exactly what they did with great success with the Irish potato famine. It was not a weather event. Like the British just took everything but the potatoes. And that's why people starved and died. Yeah. Because the British just took all their shit. So, yeah, when the Irish talk about legacies of colonialism and oppression, they know it well. They really do.
Yeah, and so just to sort of finish the thought, I guess, before we go, the reason that this is pertinent now is Kneecap is a wildly successful performing act, despite the attempts of numerous governments, primarily the English government, to censor them, to drag them into court, to do all of these things. They just played Glastonbury this weekend, and the broadcast of Kneecap's set was not shown on BBC because they knew that freedom in Palestine was going to be a central part of it. And I thought it was pretty cool that a apparently British punk duo called Bob Vylan, who I had not previously heard of.
That's why they did. Oh, okay. It's starting to come together now.
Took up the mantle and said, okay, if you're not going to show them, then show my little broadcast and see a few surprising things I might have to say.
Yeah, wow.
And so, it's heartbreaking and gut-wrenching and devastating to read. I make myself do it. I make myself get the updates every day about what's going on in Gaza. It feels like a thing that I have to do, but it breaks my heart. And the only thing that makes me feel even a little bit better, besides the absolute strength and courage of the people on the ground there, first and foremost, who are looking death in the face every single day and every single night, every time they try to go get fucking food, which is just an ambush to kill them. Mm-hmm. It is the rising resistance around the world. This is how apartheid South Africa came down. This is how a lot of these things go. Stay in the fight, talk to people about it, say it loud, like be proud to be anti-colonial and anti-oppressor, and go check out some Kneecap. Check out the movie. It's on Netflix, and that's all I got. Sick.
All right, man. Well, this has been fun. I think we hit on some stuff that we weren't even expecting to. It was pretty good, pretty cool.
Look what happens when you don't really make a plan.
All right, we'll be back next week as always. And if we're not back next week, it's because we've been summoned by our sleeper cell tier to do something else cool. And hopefully they got that cat. What's it called?
Khat.
Khat. Kitty cat. Kitty cat. I love kitty cat.
They could have cat too. That's fine.
They got the best kitty cat. Yeah. All right. See you, everybody.
Later.
Fuck me. Ni jag kommer in och bara stör dig. Cardu and a walla got a molla is a TVSD Chancer B go he should mo walla MD murder culture knock the snail foster riven RUC it's gone down to Mitch or beach like all she so the sneeze a rich so reach just need stop me mega mudgy murder suffering she says for my mala more cat and none
Neil,
of my
two fucking Essex London Sean a fucking joke tell me a geary vegan kosher laddie give here a couple of yokes get down a couple of Lena wine and food or mean coke is Chucky Jerry na he has been with your fatty golden smoke my rug they're earning and you it's Virginia a VSC slash you're watching the soul Martin a muckamora mirror sator or armiona spay locked McGabry sator mahone CERTI it's come a lumps of fuck we ain't garda do gene lasted to Misha row cast and the yaki to Misha in my hasu row ada CERTI it's come a lumps of fuck we ain't garda do gene lasted to Misha row cast and the yaki to Misha in my hasu row ada me laat Hannah Sean Cruisle balaclava is Feder Shul or Jules ni achno she tada Tangier is far and near her vel first ugin la fada Coke speed ease agus mol marijuana ik chat the stuck you and freed slift you Connemara